This week's episode is brought to you by Triple P Life Nutrition, helping you optimize your health and performance.
Welcome.
To the Age of Awakening.
Please identify yourself. Enter.
Welcome back, everybody, to the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jay LaGuardia, and this week, like each week, we're going to explore the tools, tactics, and strategies to help you achieve personal and business mastery for growth-conscious individuals just like you. And once again, it's my great pleasure to be able to sit behind this mic and share my thoughts and experiences from 30 years of business and successes and failures, and give you some insight of how we can live our best life, what we call our Triple P life, which is all about empowering dreams, igniting passion, and accelerating your prosperity. So we always start off each episode with our feature, Weekly Success Snacks. And this one has been inspired by a picture I saw on social media. And, on this podcast, we talk a lot about mindset concepts and how critical they are to our success and to our happiness and to our joy. Some examples might be is what you think about, you bring about, or you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created the problems. And there are other mindset topic related issues that I discuss all the time. You can go back into the queue and see those. But like I said, it's all in an effort to help you attract and create more abundance and prosperity into your life. That's the whole mission of this show, is empowering people to live their very best life. So whether you want to grow or scale a business, whether you want to create dynamic and absolutely tremendous relationships built on trust and love and respect, whether it is you want more health, abundant health, more freedom of time, financial security, flexibility, whatever it is, I believe this photo really summed it up perfectly. And I'm going to read it to you slowly. Not that you can't understand it, but I want to make sure that all the words touch your nervous system and it resonates with you. So here's what it said. It said, the universe responds to your frequency. It doesn't recognize your personal desires, wants, or needs. It only understands the frequency in which you're vibrating at. For example, if you're vibrating in the frequency of fear, guilt, or shame, you're going to attract things of a similar vibration. If you're vibrating in the frequency of love, joy, and abundance, you're going to be vibrating to attract things that support that frequency. Guys, it's like tuning into a radio station. You have to be tuning into the music you want to listen to, just like you have to be tuned into the energy you want to manifest and create into your life. Like I wrote my book, Change Your Mind, Change Your Destiny. When we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at change, which is an incredible quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer. And so if you're not experiencing, and if you haven't been attracting the things in your life that you desire, think about the energy you've been putting out. What's the dominant emotions you've been consistently present in? And let's see if we can begin to change it and shift it. Shift those negative beliefs, shift those limiting beliefs, those low energy emotions into higher energy emotions. Empower yourself with positive beliefs, because I argue that each and every one of you have more than enough examples in your life when you've been happy, when you've been abundant, when you've been joyful. That's what we want to connect to. I teach this process called the 1 minute mindset, which tells you and shows you how to shift your vibrations and your energy within 60 seconds. Yeah, I couldn't figure out how long it was, a minute. Someday I will go over and teach you here on this tube channel here and give it the resources how to do that. But before I bring on my guest, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, the follow button, so you are abundantly aware when the next episode is ready to drop, whether I'm doing a narrative episode on health, finances, or business, or I've got some incredible great speakers, New York Times bestselling authors, industry titans, whatever it might be, you're ready and able and know when those episodes drop. Now, this week, I have Craig Goodliffe, who is an entrepreneur, leadership expert, and business coach. He and I are kindred spirits. He's the CEO and founder of Cyberbacker, which is the leading provider of virtual assistants and administrative support services from anywhere in the world to anyone in the world. I love that tagline. Craig is an expert on business development and shares his insights as a Keller Williams MAPS coach who helps clients earn seven-figure income. And he's going to give us all his secrets about growth, about leadership, about business. Excited to have him on the show, and he'll join us here in just a minute. Hey, Triple P Nation, welcome back. As I mentioned in the open today, I'm excited to have business coach and entrepreneur. He's also the CEO and founder of Cyberbacker, which we're going to learn about. Craig Goodliffe. And Craig is, just in our brief conversation we've already had, is highly energetic. I think he's going to entertain you, but more importantly, he's going to empower you with some great content to maybe up level your business, maybe get you motivated to start a business, whatever the case may be. Craig, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jay. I'm really, really excited to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. You're in the beautiful state of Utah. I was just there not too long ago. We were in Park City, which absolutely love that area. I would suggest to my listeners, if they've never been to Utah, make it a high priority visit because it's just a gorgeous place.
If they missed it by 1 week, we had Sundance, the independent film festival here that just ended. So if you want to come, you got plenty of time to start planning right now. But Jay, if you've ever had a chance, or have you ever had a chance to go to Park City and see some of those independent films?
I have not. No, I wasn't there during that time. Did not get a chance.
Buddy, that is a bucket list item. Just to go ahead and see how far someone can go ahead and take an idea, a thought, how they can expand on it, how these crews that are just, how they come together and can put together a film that sometimes gets picked up. And we see some cool stuff out there on, Netflix and Hulu that started at Sundance.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I've seen some of those before, and it is some remarkable talent gets discovered then. So, which actually leads to a great transition, right? You had said, they get discovered, they come up with an idea, and all of a sudden, they turn into a success, which kind of what you did starting in 2018 when you started your company. So, why don't you start there? Tell me about your company, why you started it, and who does it serve?
Well, originally, I found something that just worked for me. I started advertising for jobs, for things I needed done in my business. And I had someone apply this from the Philippines. And I had a couple people and I kind of talked to them and I went, well, how is this going to work? So 2012, I hired my first person, Daphne. She helped us with some great marketing and stuff in the Philippines. And after working together for about a year, she tells me that I'm grateful for my job. Here's all the things I've been able to. She had 9 people living in a 1-bedroom house that she was able to renovate and add on to. And I'm like, I didn't pay you that much. Are you? And then I learned about that cost of living is a lot lower in places like that. And so we hired another person, and we had a pretty successful business with 5 or 6 people from the Philippines helping us out in support. And one of my good friends, an entrepreneur, came to me and she said, you've got a real estate business selling over 200 homes a year. You're a full-time business coach. You do 30-minute calls with 60 plus people every week, which is most importantly, you have nights and weekends off. She says, I'm doing just the same calls you are and working from when I go to bed at night until when I wake up, when I wake up to when I go to bed. Sorry, we're flipping it a little bit. And she said, how do you do what you do? And I said, I've got a great assistant. And she said, what does that look like? And I said, well, they're from the Philippines and this is what I pay. And they take notes and they're always with me. She says, so how do I get a great assistant? And so I just was helping her get her time back, get her nights, get her weekends. And she created a job for this great guy, Ian. And Ian now has a job where before Ian worked in the call center industry, missed Christmas, New Year's, holidays with family, works a graveyard shift in customer service, speaking English. Ian goes to work with Jeannie and I put those two together. And now Jeannie has a high level assistant. She's got more time. Ian's making more money than he's ever made. I just saw this ultimate win-win. And that was just the first person I helped. And someone else reached out and I helped him. And then another person. And then the job description started getting more, hey, can you get someone to answer my phone? Hey, can you go ahead and get someone to go ahead and handle my social media? I don't want to figure it out. Too lately, the big thing is this AI world is ridiculous. And with how quickly it's growing, staying on top of it, for an entrepreneur to go ahead and use AI at a high level, it requires them stepping back from their business, learning a lot of new things, learning the right queries, and it's a challenge. And now we've been spending a lot of time in these cyberbackers managing AI to give their client a competitive edge where they can put out world-class product and we're able to do it at a fraction of the price. So that's kind of where we got started and where we're at today.
Man, there's so much there. As you know, a lot of entrepreneurs listen to this show, and a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs listen to the show. And somebody who's
Yeah.
been in business for 37 years, it's so critical to have the support team around you because you, as the CEO, you're the visionary, you're the one who's expanding and growing the business in your mind. And then you put the team together and then they put the plan into place, so to speak. You don't have that time and energy and resource necessary to think about your business and grow your business if you're caught up in the day-to-day operation side of it and doing things A, you're not good at, and B, that just consumes your time and drains your energy.
Yeah. It's not you owning a business, that's a job owning you. You
Right.
you think you own a business, but you're actually owned by a job that you created and you're being controlled by your own monster. If you're a business owner, the game is won by starting with all the jobs and getting to a place where you have none of the jobs
Hmm.
and you're producing a better product.
I love it. So, as you mentioned, you're a business coach. You are in real estate. I'm assuming you coach business owners outside of real estate or just real estate.
I started everything in real estate
Yeah.
and the business coaches, I've got a few clients that I've been a partner in their business. These guys have helped me build my business because I've learned from their mistakes and their pitfalls.
Hmm.
More than anything right now, it's sitting down with entrepreneurs. And when they're saying, for my business, who do you hire? How would you hire them? What would you have them do? And how do I get from point A where I'm at, where, I do it all to I just own a business. And that's a lot of what we do. A lot of stuff's just one-on-one and just chatting and just great conversations and then helping them hire someone great to go ahead and fulfill their business needs.
It's so interesting. I had a conversation with a new client just recently about that, and she, has a vision of scaling her business, and we discussed our team, albeit a small business entrepreneur, 10 employees. And so I said to her, I said, what's your plan? Do you have someone who's your right hand person who basically runs your operation? And she said, well, not really, so on and so forth. And I said, well, without that direct operations person, you're going to have trouble putting this plan into place, no matter how great of a plan you and I come up with based on your vision.
Yep.
And I said to her, I said, you're going to have to invest in this person to find this person, with the talent and skills necessary. I said, but once you do, watch how fast you grow. Have you found that similarly when you work with clients?
Oh, buddy, I'm like with you on that. I've got my Cyberbacker Gen right here.
Yeah.
And if I right now, Jay, if I told you, let me do this for you later, immediately I'm going to forget I made the promise, even though I had the good intention. When Jenny's right there, it goes on my to-do list. And so she is the implementer, she's the executor, she's the I'm going to make sure you do this. And if not, I'm going to get it done. And without that person there, you're not able to be the brain surgeon saying, "Hand me the scalpel, please,"
Right.
because you've got to go ahead and be as precision as possible and be as fast as possible. And without having that person, you're absolutely right. You are holding yourself back.
So I work with a lot of healthcare providers, not just, but a lot
Mhm.
of them. Is this something that they can implement in their business? Because, a virtual assistant, is this something that even service oriented businesses can utilize?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like when we talk about just this practice, it's always great if you want to support a great company like ours. I can definitely appreciate that. I think regardless, the message is invest in someone to go ahead and help you at your most utmost efficiencies.
Hmm.
I think a healthcare professional that's going to be talking to a patient or that wants to go ahead and build better bedside or that wants to make sure that action's being taken on specific things, if they had someone that just was calling with them, sitting right there, then that doctor can go ahead and say, hey, listen, this week I want you to work on this, or go here and get this prescription. They can just make sure that everything went off without a hitch. Because a lot of doctors and a lot of healthcare professionals, you are patient to the next patient, to the next patient, to the next patient. And just being able to have the ability to make sure no balls get dropped and offer better bedside and even little things like when they say, hey, I've got this marathon coming up, and you know that there's something in their body that says they shouldn't be running a marathon, those little more detailed, enhanced notes.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of the ones I work with are independent providers. They belong to large facilities, so they still have to think
Yeah.
about the marketing, You know what I mean? They're making the calls and so on and so forth. So it's very fascinating. It really is very fascinating. I love your mission is to become the largest online service company in the world. Very simple, very direct. No one will have any misunderstanding what the vision of Cyberbacker is.
Yeah. Well, when you look at just service, ultimately at the end of the day, I think it's the highest calling and purpose there is. I think when you're in the service of helping people, that's the best work you can do. So
I
that's just kind of how we started with that.
I agree. And, again, especially in the service industry, if you don't have a passion for people, if you don't enjoy people, I always say you might want to consider a different profession because it's all about relationships. It's relationship
Yeah.
building, and my father-in-law was my first coach, not directly, but indirectly. He was just such a great man. He said, when you do the right things for the right reason, right, people will come. And when you take care of people according to their needs, your needs will be met. Right. So service first, and then our needs are fulfilled. So that never left my mindset
No, I completely, and you're 1,000% right. The old Zig Ziglar of help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
for sure.
And I think when you're truly coming from that place, where even if you don't get what you want, at the end of the day, you feel better being in the service of someone else. That just makes you feel good. It makes for an overall better day. And every day that I go ahead and I see entrepreneurs that we're in the service of, and it's kind of a full circle thing because we're in the service of, I'm going to go see I've got a holistic doctor later, and they've got someone cyberbacker that's going ahead helping with their social media, you know, and so they're in their service in that, and it's just kind of this full circle thing anyway, where we're serving each other. And if I figure out the way to work with someone else's business and make it even better, they provide better care, and you get a better result as an end user patient.
100%. I always say all the time, right? Focus on the 80% of the stuff that you're really good at that you enjoy doing because you're going to do it well
Yeah.
and it's going to reflect well on your business. If you're spending 80% of your time on the back end side stuff that you don't like, and again, you're not good at, guess what? It's going to reflect on the business and the business's success and profitability.
Yeah. And then as the CEO and leader, there's not many jobs that are your job. I mean, your
Agreed.
biggest job is making sure that you have found the best person to do each task.
Agreed.
That's really
You talk about discovering, helping entrepreneurs discover their passion or maybe even rediscover their passion. Oftentimes, when people reach out and they want to have a conversation, they've lost the passion for their business. And so often it's because they caught up in the day-to-day putting out fire stuff. And the reason they open that business becomes lost. And you mentioned now they have a job, right? They don't have a pursuit of a purpose. So how do you help them, entrepreneurs, discover passion and or rediscover their passion?
well. Is it okay if I give you a personal example?
Please do. Yes.
Because I've been doing that anyway the whole time. So now I'm just asking for permission. But I went through this, and when we were going ahead and building this company in the second year, it took off. But it's why are we doing this now? We're helping people get jobs, which is great. What's the bigger mission? What's the bigger calling? And we had a situation at the end of 2019 where PayPal we were using to go ahead and collect from clients and pay our people. They thought we were laundering money,
Hmm.
and they sent us an email that said we're shutting down your PayPal account for 180 days and choosing not to do business with you. We had 100 and I will say it's $136,000 frozen where we collected from clients and we had to pay our cyberbackers. And this is one of those times that you never want to go ahead and say to all your clients, oh, the money you gave us that we were going to use for payroll, yeah, that's gone and we don't have anything else. So I was determined we were going to figure that out while we're going through this identity crisis. And so I fly to the Philippines because first thing I've got to do is establish a new form of banking. And I see a little girl, and she's one of the street children. You can tell because she's got this little sampaguita flower, which in third world countries they'll go sell and try to make money. And these are kids living on the street. And I got emotional, Jay, because in my life I was never a kid living on the street selling flowers, begging for food. And I thought to myself, I'm solving the wrong problem here. And this company could be so much more. And so I did my little thing where I says, okay, if I can figure out this, I'm going to figure out a way for us to give back. And that's manifested a couple different ways. But we started with helping my people do more, and that turned into a profit share program. So we did collect enough money from PayPal. We got all of our people paid on time. We sold contracts. We went ahead and did advance favors for people. We figured it out. And that was what I wanted to give up because that was the lowest point. But what came out of that, knowing that we have a profit share program in place to take care of our people so they can take care of their kids and whatnot, but being able to lead and start a nonprofit that's dedicated to making sure that we provide when there's natural disasters, because we've seen people's homes destroyed, and that's one of the big things. But then the second thing is sponsoring children in the Philippines, because for my passion to reignite, I had to see a bigger purpose, because you see people that what their goal in business is to get to the point where they're making money, and then it's to make money. And when you ask people, what are you going to do with that money? They'll say things like invest. You say, well, invest for what? Well, more money. And they're stuck on this endless pursuit of more. There's nothing wrong with wanting money and wanting to go ahead and make as much as you can and challenging yourself, but being able to have a higher purpose and something that matters to you significantly more than money. And just seeing that I was born somewhere different, I'm grateful for my life, being able to help someone who wasn't in that situation and contribute to their life, I think it's the best feeling in the world. So to reignite my passion, I just got really reignited on service and the impact we could make.
It's a great story, and it's so true. And I think a lot of people have those awakenings, those moments where, we get off track for whatever reason, and it typically manifests in some sort of crisis. Sometimes the crisis is minor, sometimes it's major, sometimes it's a crisis within a business, sometimes it's a physical crisis. There's a physical and emotional toll to pay when you're constantly in a level of stress like that. And so, I've always said, embrace that, because there's so much good to come out as long as you ask the right question. What is it that I'm supposed to learn from this experience? And
Oh,
like
I
I,
love that.
right, right. It's like
Yeah.
it's like Einstein said. He goes, if I was given an hour to solve a problem, I take 55 minutes to figure out what the right question is. In 5 minutes, I'd solve the problem.
That's 1000%. That's absolutely it. I mean, a problem and a challenge is a terrible thing to waste.
I agree. That should be like a new public service commercial,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because everyone listening right now, if you're not where you want to be, there's a challenge or there's an obstacle. And usually what's behind that is something you have to learn in this moment to go to the next level.
Sure. Yeah. I've
And
often
I think
said
there's a
that.
lot of people, well, I've listened to some of your stuff, bro. What do you think I got?
Yeah, no, I've often said that the universe will consistently bring you the same thing until you learn how to overcome that thing, or grow from that thing. So if the same thing continues to show up in your life over and over and over, there's a reason for it. Stop and observe and ask, what is the lesson I need to take from this? And sometimes you have to step outside yourself and ask those around you. I'll give you this really brief story.
I want to
Um,
hear it.
I was in middle practice. It was 2005, and we had tripled the business, and it was really rocking and rolling. I had opened my next clinic, and I mean, life couldn't have been any better. And I was playing ball. I was a big softball advocate, fan, or whatever. And I tore up my knee playing ball, and I couldn't practice for 2 months. I was home rehabbing, surgery, so on and so forth. And I was just so depressed. And because I was the top producer in the top clinic, and I thought that our business was going to go to hell. And I never forget, one of my closest dear friends in the world, Dr. Pete. He and I talk almost every week, and we're on the phone. He's like, "What is wrong with you?" I said, "Man, I'm just so depressed. I'm here, and I can't be in my office, can't be with my team. My business is going to go into crapper." He goes, "Dude, wake." He said something way more, uh, kind of in your face, but he goes, "Dude, wake
Yeah.
up, wake up. There's a lesson here. What is it that you're supposed to learn?" He goes, "I already know what it is." He goes, "Get out of yourself and discover what that is, because it's right in front of you." And that was a seminal moment in my life. And I don't know, a couple hours later, just really was reflecting on it, was because our business was not only surviving, but it was thriving without me. And I realized that I had set up the systems and the procedures and the team, that I was no longer necessary to be in the day-to-day operations for the business to be successful. So I can go out and start pursuing other things that I wanted to do, which was coaching and other businesses. So again, right out of that came basically a transformation of my life. But I had to have someone outside me right? Basically smacked me in the head and said, wake up, man. It's right there in front of you. I'm not going to tell you. You need to figure it out.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Nailed it. I've heard you say it before in another podcast is about someone else needing to be the leader.
Yes.
And it was someone who's just in that moment leading you through that train of thought at that time.
100%. Because we're all leaders in our own way. We're
Oh, yeah.
leading ourselves. And of course, the influence we have on the people around them. So, talk to me about how you also help people define their niche. That's it really about 4 or 5 years ago, niche was like the term. I
Yeah.
remember when I started the podcast, I was working with Johnny Lee Dumas. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but has one of the top 10 podcasts on business. It's called Entrepreneurs on Fire.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I coached with him, and he said to me, Jay, you got to niche down. You got to niche down. You got to niche down. He goes, if you're all things to everyone, you're nothing to, what's the old phrase, right? If you're everything to everyone, you're nothing to no one. And I said, but Johnny, like I love talking about business and finances and health and mindset and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you can go that route. He goes, but I would suggest niching down. So niche, how do you help people find their niche, and why is that so important?
Well, no, because the niches are the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's it. I think another way to go ahead and say that is it's determining what's your unique value proposition.
Mm,
Where are you able to go ahead and just provide a higher level experience or create a higher level experience where no one else can. And it's just not possible for you to do that in 100 different directions simultaneously. But you can be very focused in one area and developing that niche before you go ahead and go on to the second one. And it's already usually just taking where you're already doing good and doing better.
I would agree with
So,
that.
or it's your passion, you know?
Yeah. And again, recently got done reading John Maxwell's new book, The 16 Immutable Laws of Communication. And he talked
Oh,
about
I love.
that. Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah.
I've seen him speak multiple times and love all his work, but I love this art of communication as a professional speaker myself, but just in communication with your spouse, learn how to get better, make your relationship better. And he talked about how he pulls his team aside after he speaks or after he teaches for immediate feedback. Did I connect?
Yep.
When did I connect? What was the body language of my audience? Did I leave them with something to use that was useful and empowering, so on and so forth? So my point is ask the people around you what you're really good at.
Yeah. I got an interesting thing with that because I love John and I've actually known him for a little bit.
Mhm.
So in that exact analogy, I took four of my executives. Now, well, I guess the first year was four, and then this last year we took eight to two of his different events where it's 80 people or less, and John's doing exactly that. It is constant, it is persistent. The man is in his late 70s and he's still going getting constant feedback.
Yes.
And the amazing thing is learning that when my team sees John Maxwell doing that, I don't have to teach the lesson.
Right.
Someone else is doing it for me, you know, just with that right here. But it's important to go ahead and be able to find different ways to get a bird's eye view on other people's perspective of you. And that's a really hard thing to do because when you start going out there and soliciting for feedback on a lot of different areas, sometimes you're going to get stuff you didn't want to hear.
Mhm.
But I think it kind of starts with your analytics. If it's on client acquisition, where are you winning and where are you losing? If it's in client service, it's in what area are you providing a better level of care than anyone else is, and where are you falling short? And ultimately, if you can enhance on your strengths and hire out your weaknesses, that's ultimately the way you want to go.
Yeah. Triple B Nation, that was gold right there. That was gold right there. I love that. Yeah, I mean, you talked about, Maxwell being in his late 70s and the guy's still crushing it, full of energy, full of vigor, still writing bestsellers because the guy has purpose and he has passion.
Yeah, well, and he's found his higher purpose. If you look
Right.
at right now, John, love John, and if John's listening to this, I'm sorry, dude, but you are more passionate about Guatemala right now and the kids and the government and everything over there than I think anyone else I've ever met, and it is contagious because John will ask you to donate to that, and I can't help but say, okay, I'll go ahead and do that. It's not my passion, but when you have someone like a John Maxwell living his passion, it's contagious, and you want to just join in the cause because you're influenced by it.
So here's the question, Triple B Nation. Are you contagious? right? Is your power and your your energy so vibrating at such a high level that you're attracting people to you? Brief conversation I had with a client not long ago, and he was bemoaning the fact that he can't find good people. And for all the reasons that you and I both know, and people who are listening to this podcast know, and we won't go through that. And I said to him, he was looking for my confirmation on his point of view, and I said, frankly, I said, it's all bullshit. It's what's in your head. See, you believe that to be true, and I believe just the opposite. I believe that if your vision and passion and purpose is so strong, you attract good people to you. You don't even have to go find them. They'll just fall into your sphere, because I had that happen so many times. So are you being contagious? Are you contagious? Are you attracting people into your life that are going to provide the opportunities, teach you the lessons you need to know so you can take your life to another level?
Yeah, well, absolutely. That, and also I think that for you to go ahead and be in the same space as other people that you want to be like, you've got to come from that place. You're just going to end up in the club like you don't fit. Like Jay, right now, if you and I, and I've had the good fortune of like going to John Maxwell's house several times and enjoying for dinner. Jay, I know you. If I brought you with me, you'd be that friend I'd be proud to bring and hang out with John Maxwell because I know where you're coming from. But if you're that guy who's kind of that, you don't have the passion, you don't have the power, you kind of are just this imposter. You're the person that wants to want it. You're almost embarrassed to go ahead and take those people anywhere with you.
It's so
And a
true.
lot of people, they want to want it, but they're the imposters. They haven't taken the time to make sure their passion's where it needs to be, that their
Yeah,
heart's in it. Because if your heart's not in it, you're not going to go ahead and be your best. You're not
sure.
going to play full out. And you're
Sure.
going to be a nuisance to people around who are playing full out.
And that's the difference between talent and skill, right? Some of us
Yeah.
are born with a unique talent, whether it's physical or mental, a talent. But there's a lot of people who are really talented who don't experience the success that they want. Why? Because they haven't put the reps in. They haven't developed the skill sets, right, to match the talent. And that's why, if you're a sports fan, you see some athletes who, right, from a talent standpoint, can't run as fast, jump as high, throw as far, whatever the case may be. But you could tell they have put the reps in over and over and over. And despite their lack of talent, they succeed. And who doesn't love those kind of stories?
Oh, yeah. And 1,000%. When you talk about that, it's the way that talent shows up. You look at like a Jerry Rice,
Hmm.
that every time Joe Montana would throw the ball, he would run the entire length of the field in practice just to go ahead and put in the reps, just to get better. Because it wasn't about just doing the minimum that can be done. It was about doing the best that could be done so we can go ahead and be even better later.
Sure. He was conditioning himself for success. Always the end point was to get to the end zone. And no one did it more than he did. So it worked.
Absolutely. Well, and he loved what he did.
Right.
He flat out enjoyed the game. He enjoyed the process. He was passionate. He didn't want to be a receiver. He
Sure.
wanted it genuinely.
Would you say that you find that to be the differentiation between ultra successful entrepreneurs and those who struggle? And maybe that's too simplistic of a question, but would
But
you?
you're spot on. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're spot on.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the big difference at the end of the day is how big is your purpose? How bad do you really want it? Because I'm stealing from one of your other podcasts, and I'm sorry in this, but if you want it, you're going to go get it. If you don't, the only reason is you didn't want it bad enough.
Right.
If you have the passion to do something, if you got the drive, if you got the heart, if you have an unshakable commitment, you're going to get the end result because it's how it always works. For every success story you hear that's ever happened in history, someone had to have the passion, someone had to have the unwavering faith, and someone just had to go for it. And at the end of the day, you can go ahead and be that person, or you can just go ahead. And chances are, if you're not showing up with that, it's because you haven't found your real passion yet, which usually means you haven't spent the time. You haven't invested enough in getting to know yourself because I think someone is passionate about something, but very few people actually put in the time to finding it.
Someone said to me once, and this was just off the top of my head, they said, "How do you find your passion?" I said, "Well, you won't find it on the couch. Passion is something you experience. So you got to go out and live life and try things and, and do as many different things as possible. You'll find it. Believe me, if you live life, right? If so much in today's society, in this 2D reality that we live in, yeah, I mean, I guess you can find certain passions that way, but to me, it needs to be lived and experienced to be able to really basically it's that spark, that little ember that turns into a forest fire.
And it's fascinating because you've got the group that they're kind of your base levelers that they learned as much as they thought they need to know to just get the basic job that they could get to go ahead and live a very average life. And I don't think anyone starts out saying, I have a goal to be average. And I don't think there's any guy who meets the love of their life and says, hey, why don't we have an average marriage, have average kids, live in an average house, drive average cars, go on average vacations. No one goes ahead and sets out for it. But if you look at majority of our country, they're average and that's the life they're living. You have very few, then you've got people that are living below average. And a lot of them, it's because they're tolerating too many excuses. They're not playing full out. They're not showing up their through a true authentic self. And then there's some that through their own choices or just happenstance and consequence, they got themselves in a bad situation. This is where you've got single moms where they went ahead. You have widows. I mean, it's not their fault that they lost a spouse and now you'll have a parent trying to take care of a lot of kids and do it on their own. Circumstance in life happened. But I think the thing that's important for all of those living below and below average is that if you have the fight in you, you can do it and you can do anything and you're going to figure it out.
So you were finishing your point and you kind of got to the end of it before we had a little technical glitch. The question I want to ask you is, how much do you think of it, you think in terms of performance, right? You talked about mediocrity, and I agree. I think a lot of people pursue greatness or to live a high level or high standard in life, but maybe far too many of a percent never get there. How much do you think it has to do with, their inability to get through and overcome obstacles, where they then shift and their limiting beliefs then become the dominant aspect of the internal conversation is, I can't succeed, I can't do it, I tried it before, it didn't work for me, that's for someone else. They're successful because they're lucky, which in some respects luck never hurts. But how much do you think of it is that at some point people just get to the point where they don't believe that either they deserve to be successful or are willing to put in and seek out help from people who can help them become successful?
Well, I think whatever they think is right. And with telling yourself whatever the belief is enough times, eventually that's just, you're right. And you're going to get that. And so it's right now, if you're okay with that and those thoughts, if you're okay believing I can't do it, it's not going to happen for me. I have these different circumstances. Well, then you're right. Then I think the first step is, though, you're never going to convince anyone else in this world you're great until you convince yourself. And you're
Mm,
not going to convince anyone that you have the potential to do amazing things in this world if you can't convince this person. And you really owe it to yourself, just as an act of self kindness, self compassion, and self love, to go ahead and be your own biggest cheerleader and to go ahead and just talk to yourself the way that you would want someone talking to your kids. Because when I hear people in their own self talk, and I've heard it, and I think at some point we all did it, it's always one of those times you reflect. If someone was telling my kid this, would I let them around my kid? Would I let them around a child I love if this is how they're going to speak to him, saying, you can't do this. You're never going to be good enough. You weren't in the right situation. You're not in the right. You would tell that lunatic to get out of there.
sure.
But why would you go ahead and say it's okay to talk to kids like that? But it's not okay to talk to kids like that, but you can talk to yourself like that. No.
I hold an event at the end of each
Sure.
year. Each year, it's called the GPS to Success Summit, and there was a young lady there, and I just think the world of her. And after the event, I went over to her because I love feedback, and I asked her, what was her biggest takeaway, what she learned, what inspired her, what's motivating her, and she shared with me about this ambition, this goal that she has that she's never shared with anyone else. And I was just blown away. And I was like, that's fantastic. And I said, where are you in the process? She goes, well, I'm having a hard time getting out of the starting gate. And I said, why? She said, and this, even now, it breaks my, I mean, like chokes me up when I just even recall the conversation. She said, Jay, if you heard the way that I spoke to myself, she said, it would break your heart. She says, no human being would ever speak to another human being that way. And I just said to her, I said, I said, you know it, right? You've got to start loving you first and accepting who you are first, all your perfections and imperfections, because no one on this planet is perfect, right? Some of us want blue eyes and we got brown eyes. Some of us want to be 6'3" and we're 5'8". Whatever the case may be, you have to start accepting you for who you are and embrace that and love those aspects that make you unique and different and make you, you. And I said, you also then have to believe that you deserve to be successful because you do. You deserve to be, it's
Yeah.
just like the person sitting next to you or person behind you, all deserve to be successful. But I agree that, because our subconscious mind is programmed from the age of 3 really to the age of 12 from the environment in which we grow up in. And a majority of our thoughts are negative thoughts because of that loop, that conscious loop that goes through from the environment. And there's very special ways to begin to break that link in those loops and replace them with more empowering thoughts. And that's one of the things I like to teach. So I gave her some insight in how to do that, and she started that process. And it's gonna be a work in process before. But I agree with you. Be your own champion. You know, advocate for yourself. Love yourself. If you are just feeling that way, that's where the change has got to occur.
Absolutely. And it's funny because until you go ahead and you really take care of you, you're not ready to take care of anybody else.
For sure. Absolutely.
And people try it the other way around, and that never is going to go ahead and make you feel good because you're going to feel slighted. You're going to feel like less. And eventually, it's not going to. I'm going to tell you, I was stuck in a marriage that for 15 years, I just thought I just take care of herself, and who cares what I feel, and who cares if my needs are getting better or not. And I just went ahead and I tolerated it until she didn't want to be with me anymore. Being able to just go ahead and connect with who I am and whatnot, that right there for anyone who's ever gone through that, if it's done right, it's the most liberating and best experiences ever because you can just go ahead and say, okay, here's what I need to focus on. What are my passions and who am I going to be? And how can I go ahead and maximize life the way I want to? And people who lack their own, if there's anyone listening, their own confidence in themselves, they're going to find themselves in a relationship like that, and they're going to, it's going to contract who they are.
Yeah, it was interesting too. She did mention to me as well. She goes, my relationship is holding me back because I believe her partner was reinforcing and probably importing more of that negative belief system into her. And so coming to that realization, knowing that, those who we surround ourselves either are empowering us or disempowering us. And for her to come to that realization, I think was a real wake up call for her.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of people right now. And here's the thing. I think a lot of people they neglect having goals with their partner, purpose with their partner, and including them in the business and the journey and things like that. And if they're not part of the solution, they're part of the problem. And sometimes you hire the wrong person in business, and sometimes you marry the wrong person in life. And the question in both situations is, can they be the right person? And also, can I be the right person?
Right.
Because someone can start from where they are, and if they want something bad enough, they can work and they can get there. Someone might not be married to their ideal partner right now, but that doesn't mean with enough hard work, their person can't be their ideal partner.
Agreed.
But
So
things that are sacred, things that are worth it, take work, and a lot of people don't want to put in that four-letter word.
When it was funny, I talk to my entrepreneurs about, we plan for their business ahead. We talk about, setting goals. We talk about advancements and expansion. We talk about talent acquisition and whatever the case may be. So we set all these goals, right? Always start with, right, redefining, sometimes just reconnecting to purpose and mission statement. We reassess their core values, you know, and a few years ago, I was thinking to myself, because, a lot of times, as you probably know, when you're doing consulting, the personal side bleeds into the business side because if things aren't going well at
Absolutely.
home, it's going to impact the business and vice versa.
Yep.
So I said to myself, why am I doing this just for their businesses? They should be setting a vision statement for their marriage, for their relationship. They should have a purpose as a couple. They should have core values clearly defined that from, their kids all the way down into, grandma, grandpa reflects who they are and set goals for
Yeah.
the family in the upcoming year, financial and travel, all the things that they like to do. And since we've been doing that, it's been, quite an eye-opening experience for the people that I work with. And, that's that balance of the life side and the business side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, back earlier, when you mentioned relationships, setting up your proper relationships around you, I think that's the make or break in success. Having the right relationships in your personal world, having the right relationships in your business world, who works with you, who you work around, it's all coming back to relationships.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I said too earlier that, when the one individual told me there's no great employees out there, and I said, when you've got all these things clearly defined and your energy level's high, your passion's on point, they find you. And how do they find you? Because you already know who you are. You have clearly defined core values, that resonate outside, and people want to be a part of that. So I think it's pretty. Some people may think it's a simplistic, but something that needs to be done consistently on at least an annual basis.
Oh yeah. Well, let's just dial this up. Jay, our wonderful company, Cyberbacker here. How many candidates, applicants, say applicants, would you guess we get in an average week? By the way, we hire about roughly 20 people a week. How many would
Wow.
you guess applicants?
So I would say 20 to 1, say 100.
We get over 15,000 applicants a week.
Good Lord.
We do over 5,000 initial interviews every single week, which is a third.
Whew.
And we can only hire here at our company the best of the best of the best, perfect working tech. And what we did, because here's the thing, if you can't find anyone good, you haven't made yourself attractive enough. We built in a profit share program where people can go ahead and retire, and that's what takes care of them. So once they're 5 years vested, they don't have to work anymore. We created our own lending company so people can buy houses and cars, and we profit share the interest. We've got awesome healthcare. And when we put those things together, plus our pay, awesome, rock solid. And you create a reputation of taking care of people, having these great experiences for people, you get more applicants than you can handle. And when you do that, you're able to be just as insanely picky as you want to be because you've created something that people are fighting to be a part of. When you can do that and pick the best of the best, that's when you really win.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. So tell us more about your nonprofit.
Yeah. So we went ahead. I went to the Philippines. I told you about the Sampaguita flowers. When PayPal took our money, or the president of our company, her name's Sheila. Sheila, they were having earthquakes, and she's helping me build this company, working out of a tent while PayPal's got, our money. And we're having these meetings like you and I are on Zoom, and all of a sudden things are shaking, and she's running out of her house, or she's running out into a tent. And I'm going, oh my gosh, how are we going to help these people get their lives put back together? And these are people doing good things, you know? So we went ahead and we says, okay, we've got to find a way that we can do some good in the world and help. Number one, when there's disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, there's all sorts of stuff over there, help them get back together. And then the second is, I saw this video once, it was pretty touching, and it talked about 1.5 million people living in garbage, most of them being kids. And the reason that they do that in countries like the Philippines is because as a new shipment comes in, garbage, they can rummage through and then go sell it on the streets. And they live in garbage to sell garbage, and that's their way of being, and that's just not right. And then you see these kids. We've got videos online that you can check out if you just want to cry more than a Sarah McLachlan commercial, where we go into these crisis centers for abandoned babies. And people in some of these countries, when they have a baby and there's something that's not perfect with it and it wasn't planned, you've got young mothers that are abandoning them in the hospitals, and there's foundlings and whatnot. There's a lot of sad things going on, and these kids need help. And so that's the bigger purpose of why we have Cyberbacker and what we're doing. We're taking great care of our people, but ultimately sharing the good life, being able to help kids. Because I was never a kid who was wondering if I was going to eat that day. I always had food. And I know a lot of the listeners right now, they always had food too, or they at least had parents that they knew they were going to get food. And a lot of these kids don't. And so that's what our nonprofit's working to do, with sharing the good life. And best thing you can do to support us is we have different classes, events, and whatnot that we go ahead and we bring in some great entrepreneurs and speakers, and we teach them how to go ahead and build their business. But ultimately, we're just fundraising for that, just to do some good in the world.
So the name of it is Share the Good Life?
Sharing the good life.
Sharing the good life. Okay.
So Jay, if I'm, no pressure because you're on the podcast, if I'm tapping you to go ahead and be a speaker for the nonprofit, buddy.
I'm sure. Why not?
Awesome. No pressure. With
No
an
pressure.
audience.
Yeah. So, okay. So is it sharingthegoodlife.com or is it, like if they wanted to
You
go
visit
make a
Cyberbacker. Yeah,
Cyberbacker?
cyberbacker.com. From there, they'll take
Okay.
you right to it. Tell you about our company, our mission, what we're doing, how we're helping entrepreneurs, how we're creating jobs, and just trying to make it a more sustainable world where everybody takes care of everybody.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Doing great work. And this has been a, incredible conversation. It's gone fast. I knew that it would. I feel like we've been friends for a long time, similar energies, think a lot in the same way. But I think like if you and I lived close, we challenge each other. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be all
Yeah.
yes people. And I think that's another important element. I want to make sure that I mention it before we finish, right? If you always have yes people around you, there's no way that you're going to grow. You need people to challenge you. You need people to, challenge your assumptions and your assertions. And look, if you can prove it and it's the best way to go, great. But if someone has a better idea, I don't care. Really don't care. And I'd love giving them the credit.
Yeah. Well, ideally, if you have an ego so big that you can't learn anything else from someone else's point of view, congratulations, but you're done growing. And I
Absolutely.
love when I've got when I've got an idea that originally was conflicting someone else's, and I can just get to their perspective on how they're seeing it. For me, I feel like that's a win because I gain more insight in that moment.
Right.
So I'm with you on not having yes people and having someone that's just got something, a different perspective that I can learn from. That right there is gold.
Yeah. If your entire team is made up of the same person, if you got a team of 6, 5 of you are not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Craig, again, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come on and share your wisdom and your knowledge. I know that my audience learned a lot and will be checking out your company and hopefully contributing to your nonprofit because it seems like you're doing some great things.
Buddy, I just want you to invest some time coming and sharing a lot of what your messages are. And that's about it.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Look forward to it. Triple P Nation, that's my guest this week, Craig Goodliffe, cyberbacker.com. Go check him out. Go check out what he's doing. If you need some assistance, help, he's got the formula figured out. I'm going to actually talk to him about it after we get done here, as we've been looking to add a virtual assistant and perhaps even more. But, if he's already got the model figured out, why don't you learn from somebody who's already successful so you can help yourself become more successful quickly so you can serve more people. That's what it's about, right? We get in business because we want to help, we want to serve, we want to change lives. So as I always say, guys, you be you. Just be the best you, and I promise you will always empower your dreams, ignite your passion, and accelerate your prosperity. Until next week, Triple P Nation, be well.